Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Dual BA Virtual Orientation Session 2.0. We've had some technical difficulties, but I hope now you're all able to see us and to hear us. We could still be having some issues with the Q&A function, so please go ahead and send us your questions through email. You can send them directly to me. My name is Yvonne Rojas. I'm a dean here at GS, and my email is inr2101@columbia.edu. So if you could send us your questions directly through email, we will definitely be able to tackle those at the end of today's session. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your incredible patience as we try to get this all working. Again, my name is Yvonne Rojas. I'm a Senior Assistant Dean of Students at GS, as well as the Director of International Programs. In today's session, Dean Chavarria and myself are going to spend some time talking about the educational experience that you're all about to engage in. We'll talk about the curriculum at Columbia, how classes from Sciences Po work towards your Columbia degree requirements. We want to just give you some information now so you can, so we can allay some of the anxiety that we know is inherent in sort of this unique program. We'll talk a lot about what we can do for you as advising deans. We'll also spend some time talking about what you can expect as far as resources from Columbia University as you're a student for your first 2 years in France, and how you can make sure that you're linking up with the Columbia community. I wanted to let you all know that we also, in the list of e-resources and links that I sent you yesterday, the link at the very top of the page is a link that is a Q&A document that was compiled by Jessica Sarles-Unsick on the admissions side after the July 18th parent and family session. So please spend some time with that. That's got some really great information in it. We'll hopefully answer a lot of your questions. So I see we've got some viewers tuned in. Hopefully this is working for everybody. But if you can't see me, I guess you're not going to notice to send me an email and let me know you can't. But just in case you're having any problems, please again, and also send your questions, please feel free to email me at inr2101@columbia.edu. We're going to be monitoring that email address throughout today's session. So let's kick it off. I just want to give you a little bit of background about myself, and then I'll turn it over. I'm an advising team here at GS. I've been working at GS for about 6 years. I was in admissions prior to coming to the Dean of Students office. I was also a graduate student here at Columbia. I got my master's in American Studies, so I know what it means to be a student at Columbia. And believe me, I draw from those personal experiences as I give advice to my students too. So.
Thank you. My name is Elisa Chavarria. I'm Assistant Dean of Students here at GS. And to give you a little bit of background, I'm originally from Southern California, and I was at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles for about 10 years before joining the GS team. And I've been here for a couple of years now, and really enjoyed working with all of the students, but also specifically with the students in the Dual BA program and our other programs. So I look forward to working with you. Some of you may have met me during the students' event held in the spring semester, so we'll get to it.
Great. So as Elizabeth mentioned, some of you may have on your microphones or videos. I hope everyone not hearing what we're hearing right now, although it seems like someone has some music going on in the background. If you wouldn't mind just muting your microphone so that we don't get too much interference, hopefully that will fix the problem. We really appreciate that. Okay, so a little bit about the Dual BA and why the Dual BA program is housed here at GS at Columbia. Columbia has 4 undergraduate colleges. The undergraduate college students, all students do classes together, classes from faculty members, you sit side by side, again, in class with one another. You're completing the same academic programs. But GS is the school here for what we call non-traditional students. Very non-traditional. You're approaching your bachelor's degree in a way that's quite unique. So all the students here at GS are non-traditional for one reason or another. Many of the students time off, so there needs to be direct education. You'll also find other joint bachelor's programs. We have a fairly big program with the University of Health. We also have a joint program with the List College of Jewish Theological Seminary here in New York City. So those programs who are just like you, traditional college age, pursuing their bachelor's degree in a pretty unique way, in a pretty sort of special and non-traditional way. And that's why you are a student of GS at Columbia. GS, just so you know, has about 1,700 students. So it's a great experience, and it's a community that's fully integrated into the larger university community as well. So you'll take part in some GS-specific things, and also, of course, Columbia-wide opportunities are available to you as well. So Dean Tuberty is going to spend a bit talking about the Dean of Students Office and advising and what that means as you enter college. I'm going to try to get some of the establishments that I think we're having.
This office because it aims to provide you with opportunities for social and academic engagement. And we want you to be involved in our community in addition to your academics in order to really balance and have a well-rounded education and really get the most out of your experience here. Take a moment to review the kinds of events and activities available. These are on the right-hand panel. For you to take a look at. One of the things that you can do is become a student life volunteer, and what that means is that we'll call upon you to be a participant and help us out on the various events that we might be hosting throughout the semesters. Another thing I'd like to alert you to is the General Studies Student Council, and this is a way for you to be involved in policy and maybe changing or shaping policy and being a representative of the GS student population within the university. So there's many opportunities for you to get involved, so we just want you to become familiar with these various ways to do it through this office. Another area I'd like to alert you to is the Academic Support Center. This provides a lot of resources for academic enrichment. We know that it can be challenging to pursue undergraduate education at a very competitive university like Columbia, and so we want to make sure that you have the resources available to you to have that academic success. One of the great resources here, in addition to the workshops that are held on a regular basis, is the opportunity to take advantage of tutoring. We offer tutoring in various subjects, many sciences, as well as in languages. So students can receive free tutoring through the ARC, and it's an opportunity for you to have that extra support should you need it. The students who tutor in the ARC are other GS students or other students across the university, and they've all sat in the exact same class that you're taking, so they really can speak to what the professor is teaching in the class, their style, how to really master the subject material so that you can be the best that you can during your time here. There's also an opportunity for you to be a tutor if you wish, and this is something that we found some of the dual BA students are interested in doing. We have a student, for example, who was a French tutor because she had really strong language skills and she really wanted to, work with other students and help them really master the language. So there's opportunity for you to work and serve as a tutor as well, should you wish to do that. Now let me talk about academic advising, which is a large component of what we do here in the Dean of Students office. Dean Rojas and I are two of several staff members who serve as advising deans. So what is advising and how does that work in a university setting? So your advisor and dean, I'm going to use those words interchangeably. He or she is your guide, your resource to not only academic requirements and criteria, but also university policies and guidelines, in addition to providing you with resources to other offices across the university. We are really well versed and knowledgeable about the various services available to students. So you should rest assured that your advisor is your point of contact for just about everything at the university. At GS, we have a dedicated advising system. And what we mean by that is that every student receives or is assigned an advisor from the very first semester they attend through graduation. And this allows us to really build a rapport with you, to get to know you, and to build that unique relationship and bond so that we see you through from very start to finish. As you declare a major or a concentration, which we'll talk about later on in the session, you will inherit advisors. So you'll have a major advisor, you can have a concentration advisor. Students who are interested in pre-med or pre-health, we also have advisors who specialize in that. So each of you has a GS dean, who will be Dean Rojas or myself. And in addition to that, you will start to inherit advisors as you progress through your academic curriculum. And the purpose of that is to have those whose area of expertise are in the areas that interest you really serve and provide you with the resources that you need to complete that degree. Our goal is for you to have a very smooth transition, and that's why we want you to be in touch with us from the very beginning, because as we'll continue to mention, you're as much a Columbia student as you are a Sciences Po student throughout this dual BA program. Now I'm going to talk about some logistics when it comes to what we'd like you to do now in terms of actions. One of those is to activate your uni and your email address. It's really important for you to activate your uni because this is going to provide you access to all the resources at the university. Many resources can be uni and password activated, so you have to log on with that. The other thing is you want to activate your email address because we're going to start to communicate to you through that email address. All university personnel communicate to students through their email address, so you'll start to receive emails from us. The Dean of Students office does send out newsletters twice a week, and this is information that we disseminate to all of our students, and we want you to stay on top of deadlines and events and changes or anything that we feel is pertinent and of importance for you to know. So we want you to start to get into the habit of reading the information. It may not all be relevant to you in this moment, but we want you to start to take a look at those because inevitably you'll find that a lot of the information listed on there is of importance and relevance to you. Okay. We've talked about you being able to reach out to us and schedule appointments with us. We want to hear from you starting now, as soon as you've registered. Some of you have already reached out to us via email. You can absolutely register appointments with us. We have a link, and that is, I believe, link number 6 on your handout. So that link is open and available 24 hours a day, so you can schedule an appointment with us via Skype or over the phone. Naturally, if you're not on campus, we can't see you then, but this is a great opportunity for you to get to know us and for us to get to know you and be able to build that rapport before we arrive on campus. We do visit students once a semester. Skype appointments are 30 minutes. Just make sure that you've got the time difference figured out because it's New York time that the appointment is going to take place. I mentioned our visits to the various campuses. Dean Rojas and I will be traveling this fall in the first week of October. And we continue to do that. We have one visit in October and the other one in the middle of the spring semester. We'll let you know and alert you to what those dates are, and you'll be on top abreast, made abreast of all of that information. So the message here really is for you to know that we are your point of contact throughout your time at Columbia, even starting now. But we also want you to know that the first couple of years, a lot of what you're doing is really figuring out your classes with your respective campus and administrators as well. So we want you to be in touch with them as much as you are in touch with us. So to talk more about the academic structure and other requirements as part of your undergraduate education, I'm going to hand it over to Dean Rojas.
Great, and so I am getting some Q&A from some of you. We are having some trouble seeing your questions, but we have another colleague who's monitoring the Q&A function, and she's letting us know what you've asked. And I know, Janie, you had wondered about that first point of contact with your advisors, so hopefully Dean Chavaria's response gave you some information about when we're going to see you and how often we're going to see you. And some of the other academic questions that are coming in, hopefully we'll be able to address them through the session, but if we don't get a chance to, we'll definitely take your questions at the end as well. So to talk about the academic structure of the program, as you all know, you spend your first 2 years in France doing your social science curriculum at Sciences Po. For your first year there, you'll get registered for classes during orientation week when you get to France and get on campus. You'll work very closely with the campus director, assistant campus director, or academic advisor on your campuses there. That person will help you make sure you're getting the classes you need on their side of things, fulfilling their curricular requirements. The Sciences Po curriculum that you take is largely you don't have a lot of room for electives in that first year. In the second year, you'll have the opportunity to have some choice to fill some spots with things that you're particularly interested in. But again, your academic advisor will help you there. For your third and fourth year, Dean Chavaria and I will take a huge interest, and we'll be very involved in your academic plan, particularly as regarding the core curriculum. And to make sure that you complete the necessary 124 points, which is required to earn a bachelor's degree here at Columbia. So the word points or credits is used fairly interchangeably, and you are required to get 124. We will award you 60 points in transfer, and I'll talk about transfer credits in a bit more detail in a moment. We'll award you 60 transfer points from Sciences Po, which means when you get to Columbia, you have a minimum 64 points left to do here. An average class at Columbia is 3 or 4 points. One thing to know is that your Sciences Po courses are done on the ECTS system, which is the European Credit Transfer and Accumulation System. And so when you see the ECTS credits post to your Sciences Po transcripts, if you divide them in half, that's the equivalent Columbia University credit value. So again, Columbia classes here, though, are 3 or 4 points each. And again, you need 124 points total to complete the degree. Within that 124 points, you'll complete the core curriculum. The core is a really integral part of the undergraduate educational experience at the university. Columbia is very well known for its core. It's robust. It's the largest core in the Ivy League. The core is not a set of specific classes you have to take. Rather, it's classes within certain broad academic areas that you have to make sure you're taking, or requirements that you have to make sure you're fulfilling. And you can fulfill those core requirements with a lot of different classes. So you shouldn't think of the core as something you have to kind of get through. It's something that you should approach in a really sort of thoughtful way. The core should complement your major. It should complement your overall course of study. And there are a lot of great ways to fulfill core requirements, and Dean Chavaria will talk about them in more detail, the core requirements, in just a moment. Besides the core, you'll also complete your major. And majors run anywhere from 29 points and upwards. The core, if you had to complete the core from scratch, it's about 60 points, but you'll have many transfer credits that apply towards core requirements. So the majors run 29 points and upward. As a dual BA student, you're able and allowed to major in anything that interests you, anything that you're passionate about. We have dual BA students who major in political science and economics, of course. They tie in very directly with the social science curriculum you're completing at Sciences Po. But we also have dual BA students who are majoring in creative writing here, who are majoring in neuroscience and behavior, who are majoring in earth science. All of those things still complement your work done at Sciences Po, and that's why the Sciences Po Columbia connection works so well. All the majors in liberal arts and sciences at Columbia University link really nicely with your social science curriculum from Sciences Po. So while, of course, you see more direct connection with things like sociology or economics, there are still connections. It's a very interdisciplinary approach here at Columbia, so you're still following a very coherent track if you decide to do something, like psychology or environmental science or classical studies, or just something that might not seem as immediately obvious to you, but we believe has great educational value. We just want to let you know that everything's an option. Of course, regarding your timeline, certain majors may take a little bit more time, might require a slightly more loaded semester in terms of how many classes you take, or summer classes, or something like that, but we're here to help you think that through and help you map that out. So that's as advisors what we're here to assist you with. So within the 124 points you're required to earn, you have your major requirements, your core requirements. And to talk a little bit more about the core and major in detail, I'll hand it back to you, Chavarria.
Okay. So I'd like you to reference the PDF link that you received earlier today, I believe, and it's the core requirements checklist. And this is just to get you familiar with what the core is at Columbia. As Dean Rojas mentioned, it's very robust. And what it is it's got a lot of courses in a various distribution of different disciplines. And this is a very key component to liberal arts education, which is what you're earning from Columbia University. And you'll find it's also something that's very unifying amongst all of the undergraduate schools at Columbia. There's also a link to the various requirements in terms of what classes or what types of classes fulfill each of the various core requirements, and that's the link number 7. So what I'll do now is I'll review the information regarding the core. This is not something that you need to memorize or know right now, because we're going to go over it various times when we meet with you and throughout your undergraduate career, but we want you to become really familiar with it. So just at a glance, looking at the core checklist, you'll see that every line represents one class, okay? So students have to take a university writing course, 2 classes in literature/humanities, a language requirement, art, music humanities, 2 global core classes, 2 social science courses, a quantitative reasoning class, and 3 science courses. This is the core, okay? So what I'll do now is I'll also talk about what types of classes meet these requirements and what you should expect will be met with courses that you are taking at Sciences Po. There are certain courses that have to be completed at Columbia when you get here in years 3 and 4. The other classes can be transferred. We understand, at this point there isn't that much flexibility in the courses that you're taking, but rest assured that many of the classes that you're taking will transfer back and meet these requirements. So you should expect, I would say, probably half of the core to be met prior to your enrollment at the university at Columbia, your first semester. So I'll go through each of these briefly. So the university writing course has to be completed at Columbia, and students take that their first semester of their 3rd year. So you'll expect that to be part of your schedule. It's the writing composition course. Literature humanities is a 2-fold requirement. One of the courses needs to be a literature class completed at Columbia. So the other class can be either another literature class or a humanities course. Many students use a history class, for example, to count towards this requirement because as you know, you'll be taking a lot of classes in the social sciences. History classes we also consider as humanities, so you'll be able to cover that without any problem. With the language, students have to complete through intermediate level 2, and all of you should expect to have this met by virtue of the type of program that you're in. You need to achieve a certain level of proficiency in French. Many of you will have not only proficiency in French, but in many other languages, and so we can pick whichever one you want to apply towards the core, but you should expect that that will be met. If you want to continue with the language that you're learning at your campus, you can do so, and we can definitely have a conversation about that when we meet and as we work through your transitional year. The art and music humanities courses do need to be completed at Columbia, so those you should expect those to be part of your schedule in years 3 and 4. With the Global Core classes, you'll find on the website, on the GS website, there's a link of specific courses that meet this requirement. We do accept classes that are taken at other institutions, so we'll work with you to figure out what courses at Sciences Po are going to potentially count and meet this requirement. We have a list of classes that we've already reviewed and pre-approved for that purpose, and we'll be posting those on the Dual BA website in the coming weeks and months so that you'll have access to that information as you start to plan your schedule in future semesters and be strategic about your classes when you have room for those electives. With the social science requirement, as you may guess, those are all going to be met. Political science, economics courses fit that requirement, and that's a really key component of your first couple of semesters at Sciences Po, so you should expect that those requirements will be met. With QR, quantitative reasoning, many of you will have met this with your SAT score. If you took the SAT or if you were to take a statistics or calculus course at Sciences Po, it'll meet that requirement. With regards to the science courses, the only area really for opportunity to meet this with courses at Sciences Po include classes in mathematics and statistics. So, you know, as you complete your semesters, Dean Rojas is going to talk about this in a little bit more detail. You will receive an updated core checklist that'll have the information that is tailored to what courses you're taking and how that meets the core. And that's really the overview of it. That's as much in depth as I'm going to get into it for now, but it's something that we want you to be aware of. The other thing I want to talk about more is major selection and major requirements. As we mentioned, the classes that you take at Columbia will be comprised of the remaining classes for the core, as well as the remaining classes for your major, and if there's any room left to get you to 124, then those are what we refer to as your elective credits, right? So in link number 8, there's a link to the various majors and also concentrations. So I've already received some questions about pursuing a double major, or can I do this? What about a major and a concentration? A concentration is what a lot of other schools refer to as a minor. So at Columbia it's called a concentration, and usually it's about, I would say, maybe 2/3 of what a requirement is for a major. So it's a specialized list of courses that you need to take, but not as many as you would need for a major. It is absolutely possible for you to do a double major or a major and a concentration. You just need to be strategic about it, right? And this is what we're here to help you with. In terms of making sure that it meets your timeline, whatever you've set for yourself to complete the degree. The major requirements, you should know, are outlined by the various departments, and there's guidelines for how to have courses that you want to apply towards that major, how those are evaluated by the departments. We are in touch with various departments throughout the university on a regular basis. They're becoming very familiar with the Dual BA program and the curriculum at Sciences Po, and we have a cheat sheet, if you can call it, of sorts, where we've outlined the courses at Sciences Po that apply towards various common majors that we see a lot of students declaring, for example, economics, political science, history, Middle Eastern studies. We can provide you with the tools to get started on planning what that's going to look like. But in the end, when you get to campus, like I mentioned earlier, you will be assigned a major advisor for that major. And the major advisor is someone we refer to as the Director of Undergraduate Studies, and he or she is a faculty member in that department, very well versed in the curriculum, and they're the ones that really take a close look at your syllabi. So something that we do want to stress is holding on to that syllabi for those reasons. Same thing goes with the concentration. You can have those evaluated, meaning syllabi, evaluated by the DUS for the concentration that you're interested in pursuing. So it's important for you to know that you're being covered on all fronts here, and we work with the departments to try to smooth the transition as much as possible and provide you as much guidance in terms of the classes that you're taking at Sciences Po and how those translate to your curriculum at Columbia. And to go into a little bit more credit about the transfer process and how we calculate all of that, I'll send it back to Dean Ramos.
Great. So I know we've had some questions coming in about transfer credit and how that all works, and can you get AP score transfer credit, and maybe can you get transfer credit from another university doing a summer program somewhere? So I'll address all of that. But let me start at the beginning. So every semester after you've completed a term at Sciences Po sends Columbia your transcripts. Those are received by our admissions office. The admissions office goes through your Sciences Po transcript course by course and determines which of those classes are eligible for transfer into the Columbia degree program. Many of your Sciences Po courses will transfer. That's the nature of the dual BA program. That's why this works so well. After the admissions office compiles all of your eligible transfer credit for that term, they put all that information together on a sheet and a document that they call the Entrance Credit Report, or the ECR. That ECR will be emailed to you every semester after we receive your grades of your transcripts. Once the entrance credit report is compiled, as your deans, we receive that and we determine which of your classes that were transferred in are eligible to fulfill Columbia core curriculum requirements. So we will check off classes on your core checklist as the semesters go on and as your time at Sciences Po moves forward. So we'll also send you an updated core checklist every semester so that you know where you stand as far as the core curriculum. Somebody asked about AP scores, so I do want to mention that for a moment. I'm sure a lot of you have advanced placement exam scores, other types of advanced standing examinations, A-levels, things of that sort. If you've submitted those official test results, the admissions office will also evaluate those for acceptability towards degree requirements. For transfer credit, basically. AP scores cannot fulfill core curriculum requirements other than the language requirement, which you're already going to have fulfilled, just again, given the nature of the dual BA program and your study in France. So AP scores cannot fulfill core requirements. We're really looking, it's got to be a class that you took for the most part in order to fulfill core curriculum requirement. I will also say that if anybody has French bac results, I'm sure many of you do, those can fulfill core requirements, and we'll evaluate those and check off the appropriate things on your core checklist and make sure you get one of the updated core checklist. So you'll get an entrance credit report and a core checklist every semester, so you understand exactly the progress you're making towards Columbia degree requirements. So, as far as the core requirements, as your advisors, we decide how transfer credits fulfill those requirements. But your major is a different story, and as Dean Chavarria alluded to, you will get a departmental advisor, a DUS, depending on in your major department. Major departments at Columbia are independent sort of arbiters of their own majors. So they are the ones who decide how and if transfer credits apply towards major requirements. To that end, and also regarding the core requirements, please keep all of your syllabi. And she said it already, and I'll say it again, and we're going to say it probably one more time before we end. Keep your Sciences Po core syllabi. Your major advisors in particular will want to evaluate those and see if the classes you took can fulfill major requirements, and you'll just want to have them all on hand ready to go. You go through that process with your major advisor generally the summer before you come to Columbia, or even the first week or two that you're on campus here in New York. So that's something that you'll be preparing for over the next 2 years, but you don't actually act on until you're ready to make the transition. Somebody asked also, and I want to address this now, when do you have to decide on a major? Many students know right from the beginning what they want to do. Many other students have no clue, and even once it's time to actually know, you still feel a little bit uncertain, and that's okay. We're here to have conversations with you about how do you make these decisions. They're huge decisions, but at the same time, they might not have as much an effect on your future as you feel. I know they feel very weighty right now. We're here to help you think through that. Think about your options, think about your future and how your major might or might not tie into that. So you don't have to make that decision on your major really until even in maybe your second semester here at Columbia. That would be the latest point at which you'd want to make the decision. Of course, the earlier you can make it, the more we can set you up to be thinking about that and planning for that as you're moving through your years in school. So, you know, if you're leaning towards something, or maybe even leaning towards two things, let us know when we have our first Skype appointments in September. Let us know when we chat with you in person on campus, so that we can say, okay, that that makes sense. We can keep some options open for you by planning, your first semester at Columbia in this way or in that way. And we recommend that you do these classes at Sciences Po so that you can set yourself up in the best way possible. I will say that, transfer credit-wise, the departments at Columbia have been very welcoming of Sciences Po coursework. There's in general, departments will give up to 12 points of transfer credit towards major requirements. So that's about 4 classes, 4 transfer classes that they'll count toward the major. That's a general kind of rule of thumb. And Sciences Po courses, again, we're seeing them transfer in very successfully to fulfill major requirements. So while we can't give you a definitive word that's left up to the department, we can give you guidance, certainly, so that you can start to think about, what that transition is going to look like into your major, or into one of your maybe majors. So we said the safest syllabi. One other thing I just want to mention is that departments have different processes as far as evaluating transfer credit toward the major. Some departments want to sit down with you in person and have a conversation and review those syllabi. Other departments are perfectly fine doing something over email. Still, other departments have a very particular process and forms and additional supporting documentation that you have to submit to have classes evaluated for transfer credit toward the major. So we'll provide guidance on that. We'll help you navigate that. But I just want to kind of let you know how it could work, what it could look like for you. So changing gears a little bit, I wanted to mention some resources that you have access to during your first 2 years, some Columbia University resources. So you're a Columbia student now. Even though you're attending Sciences Po and you'll be in France for your first 2 years, we consider you a Columbia student. That's why we'll be emailing you at your Columbia email address. That's why we want you to make sure that you submit a photo to the ID Center online and get your student ID. So if you submit your photo now, you can do that through the ID Center online at Columbia. We can bring you your physical Columbia University ID when we travel to campus in October. So make sure you do that so that you can access everything at Columbia, because you are a Columbia student. We consider you a Columbia student. We've sent you, I sent you a list of e-resources, and I have included a guide to the libraries as well in my email from yesterday, just to touch briefly on some of the things that I think will be most useful to you during your time in France, so most useful to you remotely. Certainly the libraries will be a great resource for you. As you're doing research for courses at Sciences Po, you have access to the Columbia journals, Columbia library system. You can access things with your uni, so make sure you activate that uni. And the Columbia resources are obviously vast and varied, so that can be something that will help you from day one in your scholarship. Another office that you'll find very useful, I think, is the Center for Career Education, CCE. CCE holds workshops on campus, which again probably won't be useful to you until you get here. But while you're in France, you can certainly sign up for Lionshare, which is the job and internship search database. You use your uni again to sign up for a Lionshare profile. Lionshare will ask you about your GPA, so you probably won't be able to set up a profile until you have a GPA, till after your first semester. At that point, it will want your 4.0 scale GPA, and Sciences Po does not do a 4.0 scale GPA. So just so you know, on the Dual BA website, we have a grade conversion chart, which lets you know, what the Columbia equivalent grade from your Sciences Po grades would be, and then you can use any sort of online GPA calculator to calculate out a rough 4.0 scale GPA, and you can use that when you set up your profile on Lionshare. I would urge you to do that after you get your first semester's grades, because that could really help you looking for summer internships, summer jobs, things of that sort. So definitely get into Lionshare as early as you can. Another resource I wanted to mention, and that we already touched on a bit, was Student Life. Just knowing that you can sort of keep tabs on the activities and on the groups and on the clubs that are going on through the Student Life webpage. We have a Dual BA student who ran for a GSSC position She's transitioning here in the fall, and she ran last spring for the international student representative position. So she ran remotely, and she got elected. So she did all of that. So you can participate and just be aware of the student life activities that are happening on campus also. There is a really great online health and wellness resource too through the Columbia University Health Services called Go Ask Alice. It's sort of a free-for-all about health and wellness questions. You can find a lot of suggestions on how to maintain your own health and wellness through your university experience. As I'm sure you all know, because you were very busy high school students, being busy and keeping yourself sort of calm and happy and healthy, there's art to it, there's a trick to it. And when you get to university, it's going to be even more tricky because it's you don't have your parents saying, let's eat dinner or turn off your cell phone and go to sleep. You have to wake up the next morning. It's all on you. So you have to take your own sort of health and wellness seriously and take it into your own hands. So I know it sounds a little bit unexpected maybe to think about that in terms of starting college, but it's a really important part of making sure that you can be effective and that you are enjoying your experience and getting the most out of it that you can. So we really think it's important to sleep and to learn time management skills and to learn what you need to feel good to do well. So Go Ask Alice is a really good Columbia resource that you can use while you're in France. Lastly, I just wanted to mention the fellowship website. You have a link to that on your e-resource list as well. Fellowships are a really unique funding opportunity for which we've seen dual BA students be very, very competitive applicants. So fellowships are, it's funding. And oftentimes fellowships are sponsored by particular foundations or universities. It can allow you to go do research somewhere. It can give you money to continue to study here at the dual BA program even. There are fellowships you can get while you're an undergraduate student. There are fellowships you can get for, once you've been graduated. And of course, you've heard of the big ones, Fulbright, things like that. We have an advising dean here at GS who's in charge of helping students navigate the fellowship application process. It's a very long process, very involved process. If you want to do it well, it should be long and involved. So as a first-year student, just take a minute, start clicking around the fellowship website, learn what fellowships are, see if there are fellowships out there that appeal to you in terms of your area of study or your projects you want to take on. Dean Glenn Novar is the dean here who leads students through the fellowship process. At some point during your years in France, he will host a remote session for you, giving you some information on it. And certainly once you have transitioned to Columbia, he will do on-campus sessions. And even now, he can meet one-on-one with you over Skype or the phone to talk about how you can start thinking about fellowships, what you should be planning for, things like that. So it's very early on for you, but we did want to let you know that fellowships are a thing that's out there, that dual BA students, we believe, are very competitive for as well. So definitely take a look at the fellowship website when you have a moment. So all of those resources, we wanted to mention them because we want to remind you that you're a Columbia student. We are eager to work with you and to meet with you and to learn about you and your goals and your concerns. So that's why we're giving you all of those resources. So just Dean Chavarria is gonna close out, and then we're gonna go to some questions as well. But I just want to thank you all for joining us today.
Yeah. So some of the closing remarks I want to make is, first is, the next immediate step for you in this journey is getting to France if you're not there already, and really getting adjusted into your first year and course selection and all of the, I guess, topics that were covered at the previous remote session regarding visas and apartment hunting and housing and all of that kind of thing. So we want to stress that this is especially the time for you to really be in touch with each of your administrators at your campus and make sure that you're alerting them to your needs and the things that you have questions on, because they're the experts on that, and they're so excited and ready to receive you and expect you at orientation, and they're so invested in this program as much as we are. It really is a team effort between both institutions to help advance every student through this program and have it be a success for all of them. And in saying that, this is also going to be an opportunity for you to meet other students who are in the dual BA program if you haven't already through Facebook or chats or anything like that. Every dual BA student we have met has been more than happy to want to talk to another student who's been recently admitted into the program. You're coming into an amazing network of peers that you're going to have, and they can really speak to how they've managed some of the challenges that they faced and some of the resources that they've used in a way that is different than what we can provide for you, because they're really going through those classes, they're sitting through those classes, or they're experiencing those challenges. So we find that building a community in that way can really help you succeed. So one of the things that you want to do is obviously keep in touch, and if there's a particular student, or not a student necessarily, but a major, or you'd say, oh, I want to talk to someone who's done X, Y, and Z, we're also happy to put you in touch with someone who's been through that. An example would be a student who pursued philosophy as a major, for example. What was their experience like? I can think off the top of my head a couple of students who are pursuing philosophy as a major, and we can help put you in touch with them, so that's also very good. Beating a dead horse here, please activate your uni and your email address. We're going to begin to email you at that email address in the coming weeks as you progress. The next thing that will take place formally from us is we're going to email you in September and ask you to make your first appointment with us. We want to talk to you, and we want to be able to get to know you a little bit before our visit in early October. We want to, build that rapport, and we want to be able to get to know you from very early on. So that's pretty much it on our end. We wanted to alert you of all of these various resources. Again, it was a ton of information that we're covering here, but we think it's important for you to know this early on, so that when we start to talk about them in more detail, it's something that you have a point of reference on. So now I think we'll take a look at some of the questions that have come throughout the session, and we'll start to answer those right now.
Great. So I think we addressed a lot of the questions sort of as we went on through the presentation, but there are a couple that are still lingering. Let's see. Jeremy asked, because transfer credits from Sciences Po will fulfill Columbia's maximum, this prohibits us from enrolling in any non-Columbia summer programs for credit. Given the unique structure of our course, does this restriction also apply to dual BA students? So let me just clarify a little bit about transfer credit. At Columbia, this is a university-wide policy on the undergrad level throughout all GS students. We can only accept a maximum of 60 transfer credits. So because you'll be getting 60 credits from Sciences Po, if you do another summer program for credit at another university, you're not going to be able to get over 60 towards your Columbia degree. That being said, we can still evaluate your summer program classes for transfer credit eligibility. So you may end up coming into Columbia with 70 points of transfer credits that are eligible, and we can use 60 of those 70 that are most efficient. So we'll use the 60 that fulfill core requirements, fulfill major requirements. So while you're not making additional degree progress, you could be fulfilling requirements with a summer, summer 4 credit program that you do. So if you do a credit program over the summer, make sure that you send those official transcripts into the office so we can evaluate those to see if those courses are eligible for transfer. So again, we'll only accept 60 transfer credits, but we can sort of pick and choose, of all of your eligible classes, which ones we want to use toward that 60, because obviously we want to be efficient about it, we want to be strategic about it. So I hope that answers the question, Jeremy.
Just to add another point to that is that there are some Columbia study abroad programs which have points that we would call in residence, meaning that the classes are considered Columbia courses, even though they're being physically taken on a different campus. And those are what we call Columbia-sponsored programs. And so it's really Columbia faculty teaching a course at a different institution or a different Columbia type of campus, or university that we use or partner with. So this conversation obviously we'll have when you embark on wanting to explore what these programs are, but there may be opportunity for you to select a program that would allow you to then take courses that would count towards the total 64. So there's so many type of study abroad programs out there. I think the first way to narrow down obviously is the region and the place that you want to go to, and then take a look at the requirements and what type of program that is. And so we'll help you plan that out as you proceed with that.
Great. So changing gears a little bit, Justice asked about a GPA. When we graduate, we get a converted GPA from 2 years at Sciences Po merged with Columbia. You don't. Your GPA from Sciences Po is one thing, and then when you come to Columbia, you start from scratch on a GPA there. So you'll have 2 GPAs. You can factor out your rough, Sciences Po 4.0 scale equivalent GPA. So if you do want to sort of put like a combined GPA on a resume or something of that sort, that's definitely that's perfectly fine. But if you apply to graduate school, you would go ahead and submit both your official transcripts from Sciences Po and your official transcripts from Columbia, and your official Columbia transcripts will have a GPA just from Columbia courses. So that's how that works. And that actually brings up something else I want to just mention quickly. The Center for Career Education here at Columbia is very well aware of our dual BA programs. So they're really well versed in helping you think about how to write cover letters, how to write resumes, how to talk about your undergraduate experience when you go to job interviews, things like that. There are some unique ways you want to be aware of in terms of presenting what you did as an undergraduate, in terms of presenting this program in really unique, fascinating light that obviously we believe exists for it. So hopefully that answers your question about GPA Justice. Let's see if there's anything else. We only have a few moments left. Let's see. I think that's really that seems to be it at the moment. If you do have other questions, please feel free to email us. Like we said, we will definitely look forward to talking with you via Skype in September. But if you want to chat with us before that, feel free to schedule an appointment or again send us an email. We're here to help in any way we can. We know this is a great, really unique opportunity. As your friends embark on their college journeys, this might feel a little bit different for you than what that feels like for them. So we want to make sure that we can give you all the reassurances possible and give you answers where possible and help you to understand how this is going to work. And I just want to reinforce that this does work. It works really well. The students in this program so far who have gone through it, we've seen them just experience incredible levels of success. Academically, students do very well. They thrive in the program. They are, some of the most engaged community members we have. So we hope you're really excited to be a part of the Dual BA program. We're very excited to meet you and to work with you. And we look forward to seeing you on campus in October and talking with you via Skype in September.
Yeah, so I just want to echo what Dean Rojas said in terms of first our excitement to meet with you and to work with you, but also to reassure you that this is an excellent program that you've embarked on and one that really will, show through fruition, what it is you want to achieve out of such a dynamic type of program, certainly very unique program for you. And there's a lot of opportunity for you to network and then also learn more about what students have done in the future. We're compiling that information so you can also have a sense of where students go after the dual BA, whether it be a graduate program or various employment opportunities. That's all that we're also happy to provide that kind of information for you as we have it. So thank you again for your time, for your patience, and we will post this information, I believe, and disseminate it to you and have you take a look at it should you need to.
Bye. Thank you.